Hello, fellow seekers. Welcome back to the Law of One Spiritual Advice podcast. My name is Elle, and I return today to speak on some spiritual philosophy and Law of One and my life, and try to tell you what I think about all of these things. So, today I have a fun topic which was inspired by events in my life, which is we are going to be talking about things and stuff. Aren't you excited? Okay, so I'll tell you actually what we're talking about. Okay, so there is an infinity of universe that exists solely to give you an opportunity to use your heart. Life isn't about an infinity of things and stuff, it's about love. So, what I'm going to be talking about in this episode is going to be about how there are an infinity of things that exist in your universe, and they may seem, we might even call them the illusion of separation sometimes because they sort of make us think that we're separate. But the idea is that all of these things, this entire universe, everything you see, touch, feel, hear, think is basically just trying to get you to use your heart. And I mean, that may not be the case in all densities and all dimensions of the universe, but the one that we are in right now, that's the whole point of everything here, is that just trying to get you to use your heart. It's going to baffle your mind to the point that you basically give up and say, oh my God, I don't know what the hell this is all about. I should just love. And so throughout these quotes, you're going to see a variety of reasons and distortions as to why that may be the case. So without further ado, I shall start with a quote from the Law of One material, the raw material, and this is going to be found on my website, theoneinfinitecreator.com, and I have links to all of the LL research material who provides us all of this for free. Thank you to them so much. So this is from the very first session in the Law of One material, from session 1.0. So you may see how this is of importance since it came up right away. And I'm not going to read the entire quote. I'm just going to read the one sentence of it where they state, all things, all of life, all of creation is part of one original thought. End of quote. And when I'm reading some of these, note how I have looked up the word things, because in almost all of the quotes, they use the word things, and I will sort of accentuate the verbal enunciation of it as I read it to you to give you that importance. So here we go. All things, all of life, all of creation is part of one original thought. And so you are part of that original thought. We are part of that original thought. And that original thought, from my understanding, was the universe, the creator creating itself so that it may know itself better. And, so that is the idea, is that we have this free will so that we can, we can explore the infinite variety of things of the universe and basically use our free will to come to certain conclusions. However, there are certain conclusions, I guess you might state, or certain steps along the evolution of life, of the spiritual evolution of life, through the densities where you go from the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and seventh density and dimension, back to the creator. Basically, some of these understandings may come in more particular manner, meaning like they might be lessons of love. Okay, so the center heart, the center chakra, the center energy center, the, what would you call it, the middle density, right? The fourth density, which is the middle of the 8 or the 7 of densities, is the heart. It's the heart chakra. It's the fourth density of love and understanding. It's the center pillar, which in my opinion is sort of insinuating that the center pillar of the entire universe is love. So let's get into this a little bit more. So what they state in their quotes here is that the proper role of basically any entity in this dimension that we find ourselves in this third dimension, is to analyze all things and distill from those things love light, or light love, which is just a fancy way of stating to pull love from every aspect of life, because that's what life is for. So they state here in session 18.5, the proper role of the entity is in this density to experience all things desired, to then analyze, understand, and accept these experiences, distilling from them love light within them. Nothing shall be overcome, that which is not needed falls away. And then continuing on a little bit further down, I'm just going to remove a little bit of noise in the middle. They state, all things are acceptable in the proper time for each entity, and in experiencing, in understanding, in accepting, in then sharing with other selves, the appropriate description shall be moving away from distortions of one kind to distortions of another, which may be more consonant with the law of one. More consonant would be like more in alignment with the law of one. So let's back up a bit here. They state the proper role of the entity in this density is to experience all things desired, and to analyze, understand, accept these experiences, and distill from them love light. So let's talk about this third density. They talk about the word acceptance in here. So that is, to my understanding, the nature of this third density. The third density that we're in is the density of the choice, which is the choice to serve others as the self. You are the creator, and so is everyone else, and no one's necessarily more important than the other. We're all one, and so we all have equal worth in a way. So there's that aspect of service, and then there's the service to self choice that you may make, which is sort of like, hey, I'm the center of the universe, I am the creator, or everyone should sort of be controlled to serve me, or at the very minimum, they should learn the ways of service to self, and I'm going to teach them the ways of how to serve themselves at the expense of other people. So there's your sort of two choices in this density. Okay, so now you made the choice, all right? So the choice now is, maybe, obviously, if you're listening to this, I'm just going to make the assumption that maybe you've made the choice to service to others. So then the service to others path is to experience all things desired. You analyze these things, try to understand them where they sort of fit in your mind and in your heart, and then accept these things. And it's through acceptance, it's like a fancy way of saying to open your heart and let that experience into your heart. When you accept something, you bring it into yourself. You bring it into your being. You integrate it with yourself. You see it as an aspect of you, an aspect of oneness, and you basically just allow it into your heart. And I know it sounds like, well, am I taking that on? But funny enough, usually it just falls away. It's more like, this is another infinity of things that was used to get me to open my heart. Thank you for the catalyst. Thank you. It is what it is. And, that is acceptance. And then sort of the experience can sort of fall away. It's done what it was meant to do. You have opened your heart. Great. Now on to the next experience. And so if I'm going to maybe back up a bit, right? Like I'm trying to say, well, this is all about love. And it is all about love. I was saying that was sort of the center pillar in a way. However, if I want to get real specific, the sort of real reason for the entire universe is more about the exploration of free will. It's like the creator wanted to know itself, and within thinking, hey, how do I know myself? Boom, the entire universe was created so that so free will could be sort of played out in various scenarios in various universes, stages, plays, whatever you want to call it, where we can sort of play out our free will and seek the creator in an infinity of ways, in an infinity of universes, an infinity of circumstances, an infinity of things. We are all doing the same thing with just different aspects of infinity. It's the universe can be tweaked in an infinity of ways, but that infinity only exists so that we may exercise our free will. And if I may connect it, the bigger aspect is that you eventually use your free will to align with the heart, to align with the heart chakra, and to say, I use my free will to love all things. I don't know. So that's my idea here. All right. So I'm just going to read you this session here, 1313, and they kind of go into how all things exist for the exploration of consciousness and free will. Every portion contains the whole. So even a very small thing, right, is going to contain the whole, as is the nature of the creator and infinity, how every aspect is a holographic projection of the one. So the questioner asks, was the galaxy that we are in created by the infinite intelligence, or was it created by a portion of the individualized infinite intelligence? And I'm just going to stop right there and just add my understanding in there. They're kind of asking, was our universe created by like the infinite intelligence, or was it created by like a sub-logos of an infinite intelligence? So is it like the creator that created a sub-logos, like a sub-creator, a co-creator. They're kind of asking, hey, who created our universe? Was it like the creator? Was it like a sub-creator? So they're going to explain here. Ra answers, I am Ra. The galaxy and all other things of material of which you are aware are products of individualized portions of intelligent infinity. As each exploration began, it in turn found its focus and became co-creator. Using intelligent infinity, each portion created an universe and allowing the rhythms of free choice to flow, playing with the infinite spectrum of possibilities, each individualized portion channeled the love light into what you might call intelligent energy, thus creating the so-called natural laws of any particular universe. I'm going to stop right there for a moment to explain a little part of this. They stated here, each individualized portion channeled the love light into what you might call intelligent energy, thus creating the so-called natural laws of the particular universe. That last part, I just wanted to explain how basically they've taken, so the creator is formless, let's say, right? And then sort of love is formless. So they've taken love, this love light, love dash light, which is somewhat formless, and they've channeled it into intelligent energy, which in my opinion is sort of like light. It's like they've created light. They've taken love and they've created light, which is the entire universe. So the entire universe is made of love, but in essence, it's also, love created light, and therefore light, everything that you see, everything is a thing, is just light. It's all light, and light is love. And so here we go. There you go, right? We're moving back. So continuing on, they state, each universe in turn individualized to a focus, becoming in turn co-creator and allowing further diversity, thus creating further intelligent energies, regularizing or causing natural laws to appear in the vibrational patterns of what you would call a solar system. Thus, each solar system has its own, shall we say, local coordinate system of illusory natural laws. It shall be understood that any portion, no matter how small, of any density or illusory pattern contains, as in an holographic picture, the one creator, which is infinity. Thus, all begins and ends in mystery. End of quote. So in that last part there, they kind of just state how, the creator has created co-creators. They also call them sub-logos or logos within the material, and those logos use their free will to create these various universes and galaxies that have their own sort of natural laws, which are sort of the co-creator's version of tweaking free will in various ways, so that it's sort of its creation, it's like children, I guess you might state, have different levels of free will, which is a whole nother podcast, which has to do with the veil and how much forgetting you've sort of been put through, how much is the veil permeable or not. But anyways, they state, regardless, the one creator is infinity, which is within all things, and thus all begins and ends in mystery. And that mystery part is a good part to remember. It's just basically from my understanding, the creator is born of mystery and ends in mystery. It's almost like, with infinity. I mean, how do you know where infinity started and where infinity ended? It's a bit mysterious in a way. We sort of understand a lot of the middle ground of where we currently are, but in the long run and essence of the infinity of the universe, we know nothing, right? So I understand that I do not understand, which is one of the podcasts from a few episodes ago. So I have a few more quotes lined up. This one, just a little quick one. So from session 5.2, sort of laying down the idea, right, again about things, how the mind contains all things. So they state, the mind contains all things. Therefore, you must discover this completeness within yourself. So there you go. It's just another reminder that the mind is this thing that likes to discern and likes to separate things. The mind is sort of the awesome separator, right? It is like the thing that operates in this dimension that discerns and separates all the things into different categories so that it can make sense of them. And that makes sense, right? Like you need to discern between a bus coming towards you on the road versus like a a flower, okay? Like, if you didn't discern between a flower and a bus, you go to pick the flower and get hit by a bus, okay? So there's reasons to see things through eyes of separation, and there's reasons to use the mind. The mind is not folly. The mind is sort of part of the equation. But then the larger aspect of the truth is that all things are one, and that the mind then, you must understand, contains all things. It's like the further you go down into the mind, the more that you can enter into that aspect of intelligent infinity where you can see the connection between all things and all stuff. And so here we go in session 10.8. They remind us that are not all things the creator, right? So even if we want to differentiate between this thing and another thing, they all still are the creator. And why am I going over this so hard? Because I want you to see how all the things exist to get you to use your heart. So they state in 10.8, it is the distortion of our vision slash understanding that the mind and spirit complexes of those of your people need orientation rather than the toys need dismantling. For are not all things that exist part of the creator? Therefore, freely to choose is your honor duty. End of quote. That one is a fun quote. They kind of state a lot of things in there, and I'm not going to go into all of them too much, but you might state, or the important part I want to highlight here is they state, are not all things part of the creator? The idea being that we have a lot of technology and toys and like cell phones and distractions in our environment, and even like weapons, right? That you may state need dismantling. And so, but rather than sort of all the toys needing, or the tools even that need to be dismantled so that we could have a sort of more peaceful world, they're sort of suggesting here that our people of Earth would be served better to orient themselves. In my opinion, that sort of just means to orient themselves in the way of polarity, in the ways of service, either service to others or service to self. So if our earth and the peoples of it instead focused on serving others and their polarity and sort of doing that whole seeking the truth type thing, they then would be more oriented towards serving others, in which case they would have more love and wisdom to use the tools that they have. The tools wouldn't be used and abused in negative ways. The tools may be used for positive things, such as my cell phone and the social media, right? I do use it to do somewhat lame negative things where I just maybe check out from time to time and watch like sort of brainless videos, right? But at the same time, for what I usually have my intent of using my phone is to serve others, is to do a podcast like this, to make inspirational posts, share beautiful art, right? So that's the idea. It's like if I've oriented myself, these tools are just tools, and I can use them even in positive ways instead of negative ways. So once again, all the items are just items, and it's all about sort of the intention with how we use them. So let us continue on. How I would like you to understand that all of these sort of items and all of these things, you bring into your heart, and then you let them fall away. It's sort of like the distortions. You bring them into your heart through acceptance, and through acceptance you allow them to fall away. It's not that we necessarily control things, but we discipline ourselves. And I know that's hard to differentiate between control and discipline. It's sort of the work of a lifetime. However, I just want you to be aware of that. So in this, I will read you the quote. In this quote, they're talking about the pyramid and like where to sit within the pyramid to initiate yourself, all this fancy stuff. But there is finer sort of metaphysical things that you can pull from this quote, which is more my intention in sharing it with you. So just bear with me. I'm going to read it to you first. The questioner asks, what is the aid of the mechanism of the aid received for meditation for an entity who would be positioned in the so-called Queen's Chamber position? And Ra answers, I'm Ra. Consider the polarity of mind-body-spirit complexes. The inner light is that which is of your heart of being. Its strength equals your strength of will to seek the light. The position or balanced position of a group intensifies the amount of this will, the amount of awareness of the inner light necessary to attract the in-streaming light upward, spiraling from the south magnetic pole of being. Thus, this is the place of the initiate. For many extraneous items or distortions will leave the entity as it intensifies its seeking. so that it may become one with the centralized and purified incoming light. End of quote. So all of that beginning part, I suppose we could just take out, but they state here, thus, this is the place of the initiate. For many extraneous items or distortions will leave the entity as it intensifies its seeking. I guess that's the main intention of sharing this quote with you. The extraneous items or distortions will leave the entity. I think the idea is that we become overwhelmed. We become overwhelmed with the 1,000 things. Are you aware of the 1,000 things? I'm not super aware of it, but I think it's some Buddhism teaching where the mind contains the 1,000 things, and the 1,000 things you can sort of be very distracted by. But the idea is that those 1,000 things are all one thing. They are all the Creator. These 1,000 things come to you to maybe overwhelm the mind, yes, so that you may become, so you give up in the mind and you open your heart, because that's usually what happens, is that you become overwhelmed and overburdened with the 1,000 things of life and all the many aspects of life that seem challenging, and it sometimes forces you to your knees and you sort of give up. And it sounds like a bad thing, but honestly it's almost a good thing. And you just sort of state like, I do not know, like, Creator, I don't know, please show me the way. Thy will be done. All I know is that, love is true and right, and, I want to be a force for love, like, please help show me the way, and I will do my best to attempt to walk that path if you can please show me that way. So there's a big fancy way of just stating that, hey, like, my mind is folly, and I would like to use my heart more, and I know that the heart is right, and please help show me that way of using that heart and not sort of falling for the many illusions of separation, the many tricks of the mind that the mind likes to play on us. So then, continuing on, that brings up the idea of falling away again and transformations. And so, a lot of things of the mind we like to hold on to, and that's okay, right? It's okay, because as we hold on to them, and we'll eventually get sick of holding on to them, we'll be tired of holding on to them, and we'll let it go. We'll accept these parts of ourselves and can let them go, and that part of us can seemingly die, and we can transform into a new portion, a new version, a new sort of seeking, right? There's that one quote where, the grass withers and dies. And so, do you want to focus on the grass that withers and dies in its seasons, only to bloom once again in the spring and the glory and the love and the light of the one infinite Creator? You are that which blooms infinitely. You are not just the grass that grows and dies once. You are infinity. You are all of these things. So this is what I would like to have you understand. So this is from session 80.20, and this is going to be about sort of transformation and falling away. So I will read this from session 80.20. Ra states, that which you call the sarcophagus in your system may be seen to be the material world, if you will. This material world is transformed by the spirit into that which is infinite and eternal. The infinity of the spirit is an even greater realization than the infinity of consciousness, for consciousness which has been disciplined by will and faith is that consciousness which may contact intelligent infinity directly. This is the important part. There are many things which fall away in the many, many steps of adulthood. We of Ra still walk these steps and praise the one infinite Creator at each transformation. End of quote. So you see here, right, there are many things which fall away in the many steps to adulthood. But like they state, this material world and its 1,000 million infinite things of its existence are all transformed into the infinite and the eternal. And actually, that's making me think a thought. The Ankh symbol, which I use on my Instagram and on my profile and on the YouTube videos, they have explained in other parts of the material that is the reason for the cross. Like, the Ankh is the cross with the hoop at the top, but the cross, and you can even do this in Christianity, or really there's a lot of symbolism which uses what I'm about to explain, is the 90 degree change from, so the bottom pillar of the cross goes up, and then all of a sudden it's transformed transformed into 90 degrees of the horizontal cross. Right? So you have the vertical cross, and when it meets the horizontal cross, that's the transformation. That is you taking the bottom part of the cross, the vertical part, which is the material world, which is the sort of masculine, if you were going to get real into this, is the masculine part of the chakras and the densities in the material world, and through the heart and the fourth density, which is that horizontal pillar of the cross, that's where the fourth density is, that's where the heart chakra is, that's that middle pillar I spoke of earlier. That's where you transform the material world from the finite into the infinite, which is just basically exactly what this whole podcast is about, which is taking the 1,000 things and the stuff and using it to do what it's meant to do, which is to get you to open your heart, to get you to open that horizontal section of your being, which opens up wider than the vertical section, right? And covers the entire aspect of the universe. It's that you are one with all, my friend, and that as you open up that infinity of knowing, you can accept and understand it and bring it into yourself. The mind contains all things, and therefore you are all things, and you are one with all things. And why would you not want to accept all portions of yourself, right? So accept yourself. Love yourself. You're using the heart. As you accept yourself, you are in harmony with what is, which means that you are in harmony with the Creator, which the Creator accepts and loves all unconditionally. And you are part of the Creator, and you can do that. So that was pretty good. I'm going to end this with even a better quote than my ramblings, okay? So just ending this off on a proper upbeat tone, my friends. This is a quote from Latwey. Latwey, I'm not sure exactly how to pronounce their name. So this is a conscious channeling, which is not raw. This is from the LL research material, as is the raw material, but this is conscious channeling. So it has a bit more bias of the channeler in it, but I try to find the quotes which seem to hold the least distortion, or at least to seem to be in resonance with the law of one material as much as it can be. So this is from February 18th, 1979, a long time ago. Latwey states, "How far can we go with you, my friends? Through how many dimensions can we take you until you are in a place of light where things begin, where things end, where things are? You see, my friends, we wish to answer your questions as best as we can, but we wish you to realize more than all else that questions and answers are meaningless. Feelings and emotions are meaningless. All of the tools with which you are familiar at this time are not helpful outside your locality. You have one useful attribute, and that is the quality of your love. Have you loved today?" End of quote. And that's the idea. Don't take them too literal with the questions, answers are meaningless, feelings, emotion meaningless. Obviously, they're not meaningless. The idea is they're just over exaggerating to show you all the tools and everything that you're aware of right now is basically useless if you're not using your heart. So, what is the quality of your love? Does your life focus on improving that quality of love, on improving that purity of your service, of yourself, of accepting yourself and letting the distortions fall away? And have you loved today, right? Even amongst all of those things, if you don't want to get so philosophical and too thoughtful, such as myself, who is obsessed with all these sorts of ideas, just because it's who I am, that's okay. You don't have to be like me thinking all of these things. You just have to love. You just have to love. You just have to love. So, my friends, I thank you for listening today. If you like the podcast, please give it a like, leave me a comment, share it around if you find it, if you think it was helpful, if it may serve some others. I seek to serve. So, other than that, subscribe, and if you find value in what I do, I know you're probably sick of hearing it. Nobody's joined up in a while, so my apologies. I have to add this on the end of everything. But if you find value in what I do, I would appreciate if you joined my Patreon. It does give me the freedom and ability to do these podcasts specifically, and it also helps me to keep on posting on the daily on Instagram. I would definitely do a lot of these things regardless. It is all freely given. Nothing is put behind a paywall. It's all freely freely given. This is a labor of love, my friends. So I would never ask that anything that I have to give is behind a paywall. And that's the idea here. I want to give of myself freely. And so if you find value in that and you wish to see more things like this in the world, I, would appreciate if you freely, if I could freely receive from you. It doesn't work that way. Freely. Anywho, so thank you all for listening. I appreciate you and I love you guys so much. And I want to wish you Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year. And yeah, we will speak again, I suppose, in the new year if my math is done right. So thank you guys. Take care. And I would be remiss not to ask for the group help, knowing, the power of the power of positive thoughts and group effort. So I'll just share with you something quickly. Yesterday, we took my roommate's cat to the vet because he was not feeling very good and he's sort of getting skinny and he's not looking very healthy. And yeah, he's also, he's my roommate's cat, but he's my cat. I've lived with him for like 10 years. He's 10 years old. So the poor little guy, I had to take him back to the vet again this morning. He's on IV drip to get him back hydrated again, and he might have like cat diabetes apparently. Anyways, my point is he's not in a very good state, and so I would like if all of you, my wonderful friends, could just share a prayer, a thought, just something positive his way. His name is Oscar, and he's a wonderful little dude. So, just I love him a whole lot. And if you guys wanted to send a prayer his way, I would really appreciate it. Oh, wow. Look at me getting all emotional. Okay, take care, guys. Thanks.